Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. A little change of pace this morning. You guys know we've been covering the Packers-Bears matchup that's coming up this Sunday pretty extensively. We've covered it from all angles. We may dive into it again a little later today. And obviously tomorrow we'll have the pregame show, the postgame show, all that good stuff around the Green Bay Packers versus the Chicago Bears. What I want to do is shift gears a little bit. If you guys are college football fans, I know you're probably well aware and watching everything that's going on today. We've got conference championship games, which are going to decide some of the final spots in the CFP, I should say, the college football playoffs. Still so weird trying to get used to the new format and everything. But what we're going to do is dive into some of those previews real quick. What's on the line in terms of the college football playoffs? We'll give you the latest bracket prediction, and then we'll dive into a little NFL draft talk. You guys know on this particular channel, this show, we call it Packers Total Access because we try to look at it through the lens of the team. We try to give you total access into what is the team thinking about right now. And to me, there's no more important games across college football to set the stage for the NFL draft than the conference championships and obviously the playoffs. You want to know how these players react, how they respond, how they perform under immense pressure, which they're going to be faced with every single Sunday in the National Football League. So that's why I really like to dive into, okay, let's look at some of the top prospects going into this year's draft and the ones specifically that are going to be playing in these conference championships as well as the playoffs. Okay, so that's what we got on tap. We're going to do a little college football playoff preview for you, and then we're going to jump into some NFL draft prospects and kind of set the stage for the upcoming draft season. I understand there's a significant amount of people that watch the show that could care less about the draft right now because the NFL season's still going on. But again, I want to keep my word in that we're always going to be looking at it through the lens of the team. And this is exactly what Brian Gutekunst and his scouting staff is looking at right now. They've been compiling information all year long on these draft prospects. And now it's time to see, all right, put up or shut up. Who are the prospects who are going to rise to the occasion when all the pressure that's on the line here this weekend? So that's what we got on tap. If you guys would, before we get into it, do that YouTube stuff for me. Hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you talking Packers football on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit subscribe and click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. I'm sure we got just college football fans that may be watching this segment. And the next segment, we may just have draft fans that are just going to be tuning in for the draft portion of this, which we'll edit into a separate video as well off of the live stream. So appreciate you guys tuning in as well. Whether you're a Packer fan or not, you're welcome here. We try to keep things respectful. Of course, if anybody jumps in the chat from a rival team and starts running that mouth, then we'll run it back. That's just typically how it works. Let's go to the chat real quick. We got Joseph in the chat says, left guard from Oregon, Pregnon, if I'm saying that right, Pregnon. We'll keep an eye out for that. Cornerback from Indiana, Pons. So he's just two of my early favorites for us is what he's saying as a Packer fan. Also really like Notre Dame running back Price. Jadarian Price is a solid running back. It's going to be interesting because Jeremiah Love, you guys know I'm a Notre Dame fan. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about my favorite team. It's about the top prospects, which Jeremiah Love arguably is the best running back in the country and will probably be a first-round pick if he does enter the draft, which I'm sure he will. Jadarian Price, they said that many people believe that if Jeremiah Love was not in college football right now, Jadarian Price would be the best running back in college football, which is wild to think about that Notre Dame's got two of the best. So we'll talk about those guys as well. Kyle Andretti says, what's your thoughts on Tulane making it into the college football playoffs? You know, Kyle, I try not to get too critical of this, man. This college football committee, they've got their hands full. Me being a Notre Dame fan, you think I would be standing on the mountains, you know, shouting from the hilltops, I want Notre Dame to be in the playoffs. Obviously, I do. Are they worthy of it? I can see the case for Notre Dame being in, but also I can see the case for them being out. If you want to look at head-to-head, Miami did beat them head-to-head, right? And I'm kind of old school, so I can understand that. However, when you look at what Notre Dame's done, who's the better team now? I think it's got to be Notre Dame, just the way they've been playing football, blowing people out. The two losses they've got, or by minimal points, right? And the reason I bring Notre Dame up is because with Tulane, it's like, okay, what has Tulane done, right? It can This is the filter I try to run it through. Tulane, could Tulane compete with Ohio State? Probably not, right? Could Notre Dame compete with Ohio State? Based off of last year, probably not. However, different teams, different year, right? Tulane's playing good football. There's no doubt about it. People would say, could Notre Dame compete with Georgia? On the surface, SEC fans would say, no way. Notre Dame whipped that ass in the playoffs last year, right? Pretty extensively. They beat Georgia pretty handily, and that kind of shut that up, right? Texas Tech. A lot of people aren't talking about Texas Tech. I feel like they've been sliding. They're 11-1. Well, they played weaker opponents. That could be the case. Again, man, there's always going to be somebody that gets in that fans think shouldn't be in, and there's going to be people that think for teams that didn't get in that fans think they should have gotten in, right? And vice versa, the whole thing. So let's just dive into it. Let's talk about the games today real quick and the conference championships, and kind of get everybody's take in the chat on this. And I just want to lay this out real fast. Here are the conference championship matchups today on ABC at 12 noon Eastern time. These are all Eastern time. You got the number 11 BYU. They're 11-1 against Texas Tech. They are number 4, and they're 11-1. So that Big 12 championship there is going to be really interesting. If BYU wins that game, that could end up knocking Notre Dame out. And we'll show you the college football bracket here in a minute, but that could end up knocking Notre Dame out if BYU somehow wins that game. If Texas Tech wins that game, that probably knocks BYU any hopes of them getting into the college football playoff out of the picture. Again, Texas Tech is the team that I think has gotten the least amount of love all year. They've pretty much done everything they possibly can. I'm excited to see how they stack up against some of these other teams in the playoff if they do. They will make the playoff. I think it's pretty much a slam dunk. But moving on to the 4 o'clock game on ABC, you've got the SEC championship. The number 3 Georgia Bulldogs, they're 11-1 versus the number 9 Alabama Crimson Tide, who are 10-2. Again, SEC championship, it's already pretty much common knowledge that even if Alabama loses to Georgia, it's going to be the committee's going to be hard pressed to knock them out of the playoffs, right? They'll probably make the playoffs whether they win or lose this game, which is wild to think about. They'll finish with 3 losses, right? And I think I want to say Notre Dame has 2 losses. I'm not 100% sure right offhand here. Of course, we're just talking conference championships here. But nonetheless, Georgia's pretty much in, right? They're going to be in regardless. Will Alabama fall out of it? I just don't see them. I don't see the committee saying that the second best team in the SEC isn't going to make the playoffs. So I think they'll be in, right? Moving on to the 8 o'clock window, Fox. You've got the number 2 Indiana Hoosiers against the number 1 Ohio State Buckeyes. All right. Both of these teams are undefeated. It's wild that this game isn't getting talked about more down here in the South, in my opinion. The SEC championships where College Game Day was. It is a huge matchup. Georgia, Bama, I got you. But the number 1 team versus the number 2 team in the Big Ten championship, this game right here is going to be very interesting. Can Indiana keep up with Ohio State? Does Ohio State just go out there and boat race Indiana? It's going to be really, really interesting to see who comes out on top there for sure. And then, of course, some of the games that many people don't care about, obviously the ACC championship here in the 8 o'clock window on ABC, 7-5 Duke against 10-2 Virginia. Virginia is 17th, and Duke is unranked. Anybody in the ACC that's screaming that they should, that the Notre Dame should have to join a conference and this and that, it blows my mind. It's like ACC fans have no reason to, no talking point at all. I mean, you've got a 7-5 team playing for the conference championship, right? And again, if Virginia wins that game, there's no chance they're getting in the playoffs. I think we would all agree. So there's really no, it's just kind of like, yeah, sure, it's a conference, but does it really matter? The ACC is so down with Clemson's demise for sure. And then, of course, yesterday you had 24 North Texas versus number 22 Tulane. Tulane won pretty handily there, 34-21. Back to Kyle Andretti and what he said about Tulane there earlier. Again, they're 11-2. They're 7-0 at home. They finished the season. They did pretty much everything they could do for the most part. I mean, you could have went undefeated and punched your ticket into the playoffs, obviously. But, again, Tulane definitely going to be on the outside looking in. And that's the thing, too, not on the outside looking in, because you've got these conferences, right, and how that comes into play and all that good stuff. So we'll take a look at the bracket here in a second. Troy at James Madison. Some people were saying, man, James Madison should be in, right? That they kind of punched their ticket. They should be in there. So, again, it just depends on how you look at it, right? And again, you're going to have some of these conference championships that's going to decide some stuff as well, like your conference champ number 5, conference champ number 4. And it kind of talks a little bit in this other article on, what really comes into play in terms of which conference champions should be in and all that good stuff. So again, some of the smaller conferences, that's where we're running into problems is they're getting a pass, even though they're in a smaller conference. It's like, I don't know, man. I can't get on board with just because they won their conference, they should be in the playoffs. To me, it should be the 12 best teams in the country, right? So that's just kind of a quick look at what's happened in the conference championships and what's on tap today. Anyway, boy, that went full screen. That was real awkward, right? Let's jump into now this playoff bracket, at least the most recent one that we have here through ESPN in the college playoff bracket. Bang! Here's what we're looking at right now. Let's see what Kyle says here. Kyle says, yeah, Indiana, Ohio State will be very interesting. It should be a good game, man. I ain't gonna lie, man. I think everybody's kind of pulling, other than Ohio State fans, I think everybody's kind of pulling for Indiana, right? You want to see them pull that upset. That would be absolutely awesome. So when we look at the bracket here, okay, this is a 12-team CFP bracket based on current rankings. This was as of December 2nd was the best I could get. So obviously you get your conference champs in here. That's going to play a role in that. There's got to be an updated version of this, right? Let's go updated college football playoff ranking here. And again, we're just kind of hanging out here, nothing too strict. I'm trying to see if anybody has given kind of their prediction here. Here we go. This is what we got. This is what we need right here, gents. Let's throw this up. Evidently, there is an updated version, I believe. So this one is as of actually, no, that was a little earlier. So yeah, we're kind of screwed on this. I was trying to see if anybody had any kind of graphic that showed like an updated look, the most recent. It looks like the most recent from ESPN site was the one we just showed you. But sometimes, here we go, 2 hours ago. This is from the NCAA's website, looks like. So let's see if we can get it. All right, let's see here. Give me just 1 second. Let's break this down real quick. I think this, of course, this is loaded with ads. This looks like probably the most updated version. So let's get this out of here and let's pop this up on the screen here, see what we think. I want to get everybody's take in the chat as well. How do you guys feel about how this bracket looks? See if we can get zoomed in enough to actually get just in here on the bracket. All right, here we go. And again, it's just absolute madness. It says December 2nd is what the date that it's got on it here. It's not even showing yet, so it still doesn't show the other teams as well. Some people were saying like Tulane and all this good stuff. So, yeah, Indiana and Ohio State, like you said, will be a great one. Kyle Andretti says, might sound dumb for asking, but this is the AAC, or is the AAC a good conference or not a good conference? If you're talking about ACC, I'm assuming, right? ACC is like one of those conferences that they were strong a few years ago when Clemson, Florida State. Now that those teams have fell off, it's like that used to be who they kind of hung their hat on, right? That was the teams that they really built their conference around. But anyway, when you look at the playoffs and how everything kind of could unfold here with the most recent brackets and everything, so what you'll end up having is these other conferences. And then once they get that updated with the official bracket, which will drop tomorrow, Sunday at 12 p.m., we'll know how the playoffs sit. It's going to be interesting. So the way it sits, the most recent one was number 1, Ohio State, right? You got number 2, Indiana. So they get the first round bye along with Georgia and Texas Tech. Okay. And it looks like the first matchups that we're showing is, if we go by seeding ranking, number 5, Oregon will face a conference champ who would be the number 12 team. The number 6, Ole Miss, would face number 11, which would be another conference champ. And then you got 7, Texas A&M hosting Notre Dame. Again, not so fast, man. Don't be surprised if that changes up, right? I would not be surprised if Notre Dame falls out of the playoffs. Even being a Notre Dame fan, like I said, I hope they get in, but I understand why they would not get in there. Number 8, Oklahoma hosting number 9, Alabama. Of course, we got the conference championships coming up. So all that is going to be, he said he meant ACC. All this is going to come into factor, obviously, as we get a little closer to the playoffs. It's just amazing that nobody's got a projection. Like, I'm going to try one more time here, college football playoff projection, and see if we got anybody who's got a graphic of where they think it'll be. Sporting News, ESPN, predicting here. That's 5 days ago. Yeah, so nobody's really updated to the best of my knowledge here. So again, I wanted to see kind of what it looked like with some of these smaller schools that are going to get in, but that's all right. See, Professor Cakes in the chat. It's great, or I'm sorry, it's crazy how IU is so good now. I was at the Hoosiers versus Buckeyes game in Bloomington years ago when the Buckeyes had Stroud, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and JSN, and now look, IU is a top 3 team. We talk about it a lot on this channel, the most important aspects of an NFL team, and the same thing I think applies in college. 2 things, man, are the most important parts of your organization, college or pro. That is head coach and quarterback. What does IU have? Cignetti, head coach. Again, they went out and they got what they thought was the best candidate, and I think they knocked it out of the park. And Cignetti, that changed everything with IU. And you got Fernando Mendoza. You guys remember when we were breaking down some of the early offseason stuff, right? When we were breaking down some of the early offseason talk and okay, here are the projected top prospects. You guys remember the quarterbacks that were mentioned? I mean, you had people like Lenoris Sellers, right? Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Allar. I'm trying to think, Cade Klubnik, right? Or Klubnik, however you pronounce his name. Those are some of the guys, kind of like Carson Beck last year was like the top prospect. And then he sank like a rock. And then he transfers to Miami. Now he's sitting around the 150 mark. We'll get into that here in a second. But yeah, what now with the updated rankings, Fernando Mendoza is projected to be the top quarterback taken. You got a guy, Dante Moore with Oregon that wasn't even mentioned before. Now all of a sudden he's, second behind Fernando Mendoza. So again, the reason I mentioned that, Professor Cakes, is because all it takes is a head coach and a quarterback. That you get those 2 pieces in place, you're good to go. Right now, you can build the program around that. And I know Fernando Mendoza wasn't there in starting games when Cignetti first took over, but that's why they're so good now, right? Quarterback, head coach. That's the big change there, man. The pieces that we're missing, if you will. So, all right, let's jump into some of the top prospects. Probably why many Packer fans are watching this video. So, as it sits right now, let's just sort it by all. This is the consensus big board. I'm going to try to get it zoomed in. When I zoom in, it actually zooms out. So this side is always kind of wonky with how it lies. Hopefully you guys can see this. Here are the top 10 prospects according to the consensus big board updated as of December 6th. Okay. So you got Ruben Bain, edge defender out of Miami at number 1, linebacker out of Ohio State, Arvell Reese at number 2. Number 3, quarterback Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. Number 4, Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State. Number 5, Dante Moore, quarterback out of Oregon. Number 6, quarterback out of Alabama, Ty Simpson, a name you didn't hear a whole lot about, right? And again, whether these guys enter the draft or are eligible, that'll get sorted as we get closer to the draft. This is just as of December 6th, okay? And we'll continue to fine-tune this as we get closer to the draft. Number 7, Jordan Tyson, right? Wide receiver out of Arizona State. Then you've got number 8 out of Auburn, edge defender, Keldrick Falk. Number 9, Spencer Fano, offensive tackle out of Utah. And then number 10, you got Cornell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. That is your current top 10, okay? So now, from a Packer fan standpoint, if we were to look at some of these positions, what would you guys, let me know in the chat as quick as possible, what do you think is the top need for the Green Bay Packers going into, based off what we've seen so far, and there's a lot of football left to be played, what's the top position of need that you guys think? Because to me, I think it still lies in the trenches. I still think you need to try to find that 3 tech of the future. It doesn't mean you draft a 3 tech and you reach, you take the best player available. But I think that's where the search starts. For me, it's defensive tackle, specifically 3 tech, and also offensive line. Offensive line's been our weak point, right? That's exactly what Snake even says, or I hope I'm saying it right. Snake Venom. Got it. All right. O-line is what they're saying, right? Professor Cakes, O-line or D-line. Completely agree, right? Cody McDougal in the chat says, can we find an extra tight end like Kraft in the draft, please? Boy, I'd love to have a half a dozen of Krafts and line them up at different positions, right? That's so well said there, though, Cody, because Kraft is just, oh, man, an absolute dog. Kyle Andretti says D-line, probably O-line. So I think it's pretty consensus across the board. We're thinking O-line and D-line. Let's start with tackle. The Packers love drafting tackles, right? So Spencer Fano, offensive tackle, or Fano, however you say his name, offensive tackle out of Utah in the number 9 spot. You got Francis Muagoa, if I'm saying that right, offensive tackle out of Miami. You've got Caden Proctor, tackle out of Alabama. You guys know how those Alabama tackles are. They just fall off trees down there. Number 25, you got Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle out of Utah. So you got both of Utah's tackles. Check that out, guys. You got Spencer Fano and then Lomu. Yeah, so they're both projected to be top 25 picks here in terms of the consensus big board. And then dropping outside of the first round, you got Jennings Dunker, offensive tackle out of Iowa. Then you got Isaiah World, tackle out of Oregon in the number 40 spot, along with Colt Dietrich, tackle out of Sam Houston State in the 41 spot. So in the top 40 prospects, you like to think you'd have your swing, your pick of at least a couple of those if you want to go offensive tackle. That's how they sit right now. So you essentially have, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tackles that are currently sitting in the top 50 prospects in terms of the consensus big board. Let's go to interior offensive line in case you're willing to pull the trigger there, right? You've got Lone, however you say his name, interior offensive lineman at Penn State at the number 22 spot. You got Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon, or Pregnon, however you say it, 45 in the 45 spot, and then it drops out of the top 50. You guys know interior offensive linemen, they're few and far between that go inside the top 50. Typically, it's the tackles that are more versatile, that type of thing. So that's how that sits. So essentially what you've got is 8 prospects? You got 8 prospects in the top 50. We're going to start to dive into these guys as soon as the college football playoffs wrap up and we start our draft coverage. We will start to build our board and kind of talk about how good these players look. And we're going to cross-check this over to PFF in just a second as well to kind of give you guys an idea there. Now, let's switch over to defensive line since that's another position that we've kind of talked about here, okay? Defensive line, and again, this is interior defensive lineman for the most part. Peter Woods, defensive lineman out of Clemson in the number 13 spot. You've got Caden McDonald out of Ohio State in the number 29 spot. You got Amori Washington out of Oregon in the 36 spot. Caleb Banks out of the University of Florida in the 37 spot. Kristen Miller out of Georgia in the 46 spot. And then it drops out of the top 50 there. So what you've got is 5 defensive tackles, right? And some of these guys may be like a Darius Alexander that can play edge. Again, as we get closer to the draft, we'll break down a little more in detail of how these guys lay out. But you've got essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prospects at defensive line in the top 50 right now. It's pretty cool, too. You got an ACC representative. Isn't it wild? Clemson is so bad this year, but they got arguably the 13th best prospect at one of the most important positions at defensive line. It's just crazy to think about. Florida, the same thing. They've had a down year. 37th best prospect at D-line there. So that's kind of how that lays out. Let's go to edge because sometimes you'll get a bigger body edge that might kick inside and vice versa. The number 1 prospect in the country is Ruben Bain at edge for Miami. All right. Number 8, you've got Keldrick Falk, edge defender out of Auburn. He's in the number 8 spot. David Bailey, you guys remember we had him on our draft board last year. For whatever reason, he was kind of sneaking through the process. I'm like, this dude's a slam. This guy's a stud. Holy cow, David Bailey's a stud. And then all of a sudden, he went back to college, right? There was something that happened there. It was kind of wonky. For some reason, they were thinking he was going to play pro or go pro, and then he stayed in college. I'd like to kind of revisit that and see exactly what happened. But David Bailey in the 15 spot out of Texas Tech will be interesting. TJ Parker out of Clemson, another Clemson defensive front guy, right? In the number 20 spot, TJ Parker. Cassius Howell, edge defender out of Texas A&M in the 26 spot. Mateo Uiagalelei, maybe, edge out of Oregon in the 31 spot. LT Overton out of Alabama in the 39 spot. You got Quincy Rhodes Jr. out of Arkansas in the 42 spot. Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma in the 49 spot, and then Joshua Josephs out of the University of Tennessee in the 50 spot. So you notice at edge, guys, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 defenders, 10 edge defenders in the top 50. So you're seeing where the depth already lies in this draft. Last year, you guys remember it was really deep at defensive tackle. We talked about edge was deep too, but defensive tackle was really, really deep last year. This year, defensive tackle not as deep. We're showing 5 guys projected as top 50 prospects according to the consensus big board. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. Edge seems deep. Defensive tackle is about 5 deep in the top 50. And then offensive tackle, like we said, was what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 deep in the top 50, if that makes sense. So let's see here. Professor Cakes, is a corner a sneaky priority need too? You know how I feel about corner, Professor Cakes. I don't think it's as important as most fans do, and you're kind of seeing it this year. Like you looked at our cornerback room going into the season, and many fans thought it was a weakness. And here we got one of the best pass defenses in the entire National Football League, right? So it's like that's what I mean by it's not as important as people may lead you to believe. And the reason I say that's because it's more important to have a strong front. And again, post safety, Mike Backer, someone who's going to play in the middle of the defense along with the post safety. We got 2 at safety, which is wild to think about, right? When your middle field closed, I want my best defender at safety, Mike, and 3 tech is where I want them. And the reason 3 tech over nose is because with the nose, probably going to get double teamed a lot of time if you're in your nickel 4-2-5 the majority of the time, playing 1 tech in between the guard and the center. That's going to occupy a double team. You want to free up 3 tech and have a dominant pass rusher opposite him wide 9. And that's why I kind of look at it that way. So again, in order of importance, in terms of priority, tiers of importance, right? 3 tech, edge, top of the list, hands down. You've got to make sure you got dominant players there for your defense. Then Mike, inside linebacker, right? And then post safety. Post safety, we got Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams. Check the box. Mike Backer, it's a combination in how Jeff Hafley runs his defense. You have Edgerrin Cooper, who plays in the middle of this defense, Isaiah McDuffie, who stepped up huge, who's under contract next year, and Quay Walker, who, again, has been banged up. Some people love him. Some people think he's overrated. Nonetheless, I feel good about where we're at stack backer, right? Edge defender, got arguably the best edge defender in the game other than Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons, right? So you got him on the outside. And then, of course, we got Devontae Wyatt coming back next year at 3 tech. Is he the 3 tech? Is that the guy? Have we seen enough? And it's such an important position. Here's how I ask that question. If you think Devontae Wyatt's a good player, that's awesome. We're looking for someone who is a dominant 3 tech. The teams that have dominant 3 techs play. I mean, it's so hard to stop their defense, right? If you're not willing to pay Devontae Wyatt top 5 defensive tackle money, then I cannot consider him a top defensive tackle. I want to ask the chat real quick, and we need to answer really, really, really fast. Would you be willing to pay Devontae Wyatt top 5 defensive tackle money? I'm talking pay him like he's a J.J. Watt of the league. Pay him like he's I'm trying to think of some of the great defensive tackles. I hate to do this, but I mean, this is the reality of whether or not you should continue to swing at defensive tackle. Do you consider him on the level of, I'm trying to think of the dominant defensive tackles in their time, Warren Sapp, right? I'm going to say Reggie, although that's really, really, really unrealistic, right? Or Reggie White. If we go just across the league right now, Quinnen Williams, I think we would all agree Devontae Wyatt's not in his ballpark, right? Chris Jones, there you go, Adam. Chris Jones, right? I just don't see Devontae Wyatt at that level, right? So, as Kyle asked here, does Green Bay have to pay Wyatt this year or next year? He's under contract next year with the 5th-year option that's fully guaranteed somewhere around $12 million. But you got to make a decision on whether he's the 3 tech of the future because, again, we're modeling the roster. You're projecting the roster out for the next 3 to 5 years, this window that we keep talking about. So if you're not willing to give him top defensive tackle money, and when I mean top defensive tackle money, you're willing to pay him $25 to $30 million per year, right? I'm not willing to do that. I just haven't seen enough there. Now, maybe he'll take 17 or 18 million a year. Okay. That's a different story, right? So, and he is a little bit older as the chat's talking about here, right? I think it was, I'm trying to think of who said it there. Yeah, here we go. Adam Block, Wyatt was older when drafted. Exactly. I want to say he's like 27. He'll be 28 next year. So the whole point of that is, well, guess what? You're going to need a 3 tech of the future. So again, back to the defensive tackles, you're gonna look to try. That's why I was so on board this last draft with, hey, I think we should go 3 tech as long as the board falls right. And I felt like it felt good enough for us that we probably could have taken a 3 tech. Now, would that have worked out? That's the gamble of the draft, right? Instead, you go Matthew Golden, which I'm not complaining about at wide receiver, but you guys know I don't put wide receiver as one of those top priority positions. Let's put it this way. Imagine, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have drafted Matthew Golden. I'm glad we did. And I think he's going to be a great football player. He's shown me enough that you can see it all over the tape. Like, this dude just needs his opportunities and he needs to stay healthy. He's going to be great. But imagine if we had taken a top defensive tackle in the draft and we had hit that pick and we got, okay, now we've got our 3 tech of the future. Doesn't have to be on a borderline Hall of Fame level, but you got a guy that's as good or maybe a little bit better than Devontae Wyatt. Then next year, the 5th-year option runs out on Devontae Wyatt. You let him walk in free agency, and you've already got your 3 tech of the future with 2 years experience, right? So that's why I prioritize it more than wide receiver. If we did not have Matthew Golden on this roster, would the Packers still be in the same position that they are in terms of wins? I personally believe, yeah, because Matthew Golden hasn't gotten as many targets as maybe some people want to see a first-round pick get. You guys know I disagree with that. I think you throw to the open guy and the heck with the rest. But also he's been banged up, right? So all of that stuff is going to play into how the Packers approach this. Adam Block, great point. I'm interested to see how Brinson looks the rest of the season. 13.5% pressure rate, minimal snaps, looking good. That could be the 3 tech of the future. And if it is, boy, 3 more years on that rookie contract, dirt cheap at one of the most expensive positions, most important positions in the game. Imagine this now, Adam. Imagine you still go out and you draft a 3 tech this offseason. You move on from Wyatt next year, and Brinson continues to develop into a great defensive tackle. And now you got another young defensive tackle on a rookie contract. And what if he ends up being better than Brinson and they're kind of 1A, 1B? That's how you keep this defense solid in the middle, right? That's kind of how that's where I'm at on that. So here we go. Not Cody, not as young as I thought. I forgot he was here 4 years already. Yeah, I got you. Probably talking about Wyatt. So anyway, back to the cornerback question, whoever asked that, let's look at the top corners here this year. So you've got Delane, cornerback out of LSU in the 14 spot. You got Jamad McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee in the 16 spot. Avion Terrell, if I'm saying it's either Terrell or Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson in the 23 spot. Number 30, you've got Brandon, is it maybe Cease or Sice, cornerback out of South Carolina. And like I said, they've got him in the 30 spot. It looks like his recent mock, they're already doing mock drafts, which is wild to think about. They had him going number 23 to the New York Jets. Then you got Colton Hood out of Tennessee, whether he'll go to the draft or not. I want to say he's got eligibility left. And that's the other thing. NIL is going to play a role in whether these players go to the draft or not, right? Because they're actually making really good money now. But Colton Hood out of Tennessee, number 33. It's wild to think that Tennessee has 2 top 50 cornerbacks and their defense has been so bad this year. That's just crazy to think about. But again, this is about projection, not how they played in college, right? Number 47, you got Keith Abney, the second out of Arizona State in the 47 spot. So you've got a corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cornerbacks that are falling in the top 50 as it sits right now. So that's how the cornerback position looks, right? And again, you guys know I see corner, I don't even have it as a tier 2 position. Tier 1 on defense, edge, 3 tech. Tier 2, mock, post safety. That's how I see that. Now, if you look up and you're picking this year in the draft, 32nd, that'd be awesome. Well, actually, we're not going to be picking 32nd, but we've obviously given up that draft pick. But if you look up and you've got, let's say you're picking in the 2nd round, and just throw out a number, any team, it doesn't have to be the Packers. Let's say, hell, let's just say it's a 1st round pick. Let's say you're picking in the number 27 spot, right? And all the defensive tackles are gone, and you've got Jamad McCoy sitting there. You're picking 27. Your board says he was the 16th best prospect and the best available on the board. I'm not saying you shouldn't take a corner there. That's not how that works. I'm just simply saying one of the biggest tiebreakers for me in terms of drafting a specific position is when you're on the clock, is there a tier 1 position of importance that's available? Think Lucas Van Ness. Why did Goody go that route when he did at 13? He was the best player available on the board, or probably in that best cluster at least, and then tier 1 position of importance at edge defense. So that's kind of how I see that too. Adam Block says center guard is my top need at the moment. That could change. And here's the thing: center, tier 2 position of importance, right? Now tackle is tier 1. Rasheed Walker probably going to walk in free agency, no pun intended. And you've got Zach Tom You're good at Zach Tom. You're good at right tackle with Zach Tom. Okay. And we know we can have this conversation. Could Zach Tom kick the center? It's possible. Is Jordan Morgan going to be our left tackle of the future? I kind of feel like that's their plan. Although if you pop up on the clock and let's say you're in the second round or you climb up in the first or whatever, let's say you're in the second round and somehow Proctor falls all the way to the second round and you actually have him as the 18th best prospect, pull the trigger on that tackle. And if he starts at left tackle from day one, great. But you let them have a camp battle between Jordan Morgan and him for left tackle. And who knows, maybe Jordan Morgan, with his experience and obviously played left tackle his entire career other than in the NFL, if he wins that job outright, maybe Proctor makes a better guard, right? That could be the case. But I'm with you. Center should be the top need, to be honest with you. As I'm sitting here right now, it's tier 2 of importance. You got to go out and find your center. And that's the big question. They don't differentiate here who's a center and who isn't. You guys may have that information right offhand. But with that said, let's say that Lone or however you say his name, Loane or Lone from Penn State, let's say he's a center and he's the best center and he's available. When you're on the clock in the second round, sometime he falls to the second round and you got him as the 22nd best prospect, that would line up beautifully with what the Packers want to do, right? That could be the case there for sure. So Adam Block says, yep, always a big chance of tackle to go to guard in this league, especially with this team. And this team loves doing that, right, Adam? That's one of their kind of staples. So again, that's kind of how the big board sets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that down. And we already went way longer than I thought we would, but we're going to keep going here for just a second. I want to show you guys the PFF big board. And again, this is all subject to change, okay? So when we look at the PFF big board, their top prospect as it's listed right now is Reuben Bain Jr., number 1. That's the edge defender out of Miami. And then you got Caleb Downs, number 2, a safety out of Ohio State. If you guys don't know who Caleb Downs is, this dude, he was a freshman at Alabama. And they said he was the best player on the field when he took his first snap as a freshman. He has all the tape that suggests that Caleb Downs is going to be just a slam dunk starting safety from day one in the National Football League. All right. And some people say he's a little undersized, 6 foot 205. I know people like those 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" safeties. I got you. Understand that. Caleb Downs is a dominant player. That's probably going to be your top safety taken off the board. Number 3, stack backer Arvell Reese, linebacker out of Ohio State. Number 4, Peter Woods, defensive tackle. I'm assuming defensive tackle. Because they're differentiating between edge. Peter Woods out of Clemson, number 4. And then you got Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. So what you're seeing is wide receiver Jordan Tyson is kind of popping up as the top receiver this year, kind of like Tet McMillan, right? Yeah, Consensus Big Board has him number 7, Cornell Tate number 10. They've got Jordan Tyson here on PFF's Big Board sitting in the number 5 spot overall. Number 6, there's Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. Guys, he is really unbelievable. I'm not just saying that because I'm an Irish fan. Look at the grades the last 2 years. 91.1, 92.9. He's unbelievable to watch. If he can stay healthy, my goodness, man. They have Ty Simpson as the top quarterback in the number 7 spot, all right? And then Fernando Mendoza in the number 8 spot. And look at Mendoza. We talk about an ascending player, 67, 77, 88. Right now, Fernando Mendoza is my top quarterback. But again, a lot of time between now and the draft for sure. Here we got Mekhi Lemon, a wide receiver out of USC. They've got him listed in the number 9 spot. And again, cross-checking, the Consensus Big Board actually has Cornell Tate out of Ohio State in the number 10 spot and Mekhi Lemon in the 19 spot. So a little bit of discrepancy there between those two sides. There's Jamad McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee in the 10 spot. So there's your top 10. Now back to the needs that we just discussed. Let's see if we can get this thing sorted. Hopefully they've got it tightened up where we can. All right, so we can actually look at centers here. Let's see who are listed as centers. Actual center listing, the top one is in the 65 spot with Connor Lew out of Auburn. Then Jake Slaughter at 67. And then Logan Jones at 198. So you don't even have a center in the top 50 this year, according to PFF's projections, right? Now, if we included interior offensive linemen altogether with guards, there's where you're getting into Loane, or however you say his name, out of Penn State. He's in the 26th spot. Emmanuel Pregnon in the 57 spot. So you've only got one in the top 50 there. in terms of interior offensive lineman. He's 6'4", 328. So when you comb down here and you see that first center, the PFF grades aren't even that great, right? Last 3 years, 66, 75, 66. Jake Slaughter has the best PFF grade, 77, 82, 78. As you climb down, is there any of them that kind of catch your attention? Here's an ascending player, DJ Campbell out of Texas, 63, 68, 72. So he seems to be getting better every year according to PFF. Same thing here with Kobe Baines with a 63, 68, 72 out of Kansas. So look at Logan Jones here. Now, there may be injuries involved here too. You guys do your own research there. We'll dive into that as we build our board out, getting closer to the draft. 65, 83, 84. So he's a player that's ascending and playing damn near elite here this year. He was the top graded center in college football, Logan Jones was. So that's one to kind of earmark there, right? And again, whether this is his final year in college or not, we can look into that later. But again, it kind of feels like, as Adam says, you can look for value rounds 3 through 5, right? Yeah, that's what it feels like, right? You don't want to get caught reaching, trying to find, just, okay, we're going to take the best center on the board. And that center is going to be Connor Lew. Even though we got him 65th on our board, we're going to take him at whatever pick in the second round that's, not really worthy of that pick. Although I got to admit, the Packers were to go on a Super Bowl run here. Let's say they're picking 64th, right? Obviously, last pick of the draft, you gave up your first round pick. So if you got your second round pick there, that would fall perfectly in line with Connor Lew in terms of value if their board matched up to PFF's board, obviously. So again, that's just a quick look into what we got going on with the draft right now. It's very, very early in the process. The point I wanted to make is you got some of these games coming up, right? Actually, let me pop this back up one more time. We got some games coming up today. And if we were to put our needs out there, right? So let's take the guards off. Let's put center and let's put interior defenders, which would be a defensive tackle, which we feel like are our top needs. Which of these players can we watch throughout the playoffs? That's the whole point of this, right? And you know what? Let's include quarterback because we know quarterbacks are going to get talked about a lot this offseason as well. So you got Ty Simpson, who will most likely, he's going to be playing the SEC championship this afternoon at 4:00 Eastern. So you'll get a good look at Ty Simpson and what he does on the grand stage of the SEC championship as they get ready to play in the playoffs as well. The Big Ten championship tonight. Fernando Mendoza going up against Ohio State. Guys, this is an opportunity for Fernando Mendoza with Indiana to say, hey, I am the top dog. I'm the top quarterback in this draft. If he goes out there and somehow, some way upsets Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, and then they go on a run in the playoffs here with Cignetti, look out. Fernando Mendoza's got a chance to slam dunk, be the number one quarterback in the draft, franchise quarterback. He checks all the boxes right now. If you guys have not heard an interview for Fernando Mendoza, and I'm not trying to put down Ty Simpson. I'm sure Ty Simpson's a great quarterback too. But Fernando Mendoza, think of all the boxes you want to check with a franchise quarterback. Listen to his interviews. He's mature. He's a team first guy. He's got this very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very, he just draws people to him. He's got he's magnetic. He's just, I don't know. You can just tell that players would want to play for him. It doesn't come across as fake like some of the other guys. And I won't mention any names or put anybody down, but you could tell when people are faking, right? The players are faking, like they want to be that guy that draws people to them, right? Fernando Mendoza's got that it thing, that it factor, in my opinion. Now, if he goes out there and craps the bed on a national stage today and you go, okay, he didn't play well in a big game, that changes some things. But in terms of just how he interviews and his attitude and everything, I think I like Drake May. Drake May, his teammates love him, right? Jaden Daniels, his teammates love him. CJ Stroud, his teammates love him. Jordan Love, his teammates absolutely adore him, right? That's important. And then you get some of these other guys that we won't mention the names, but you know what I'm talking about. It just kind of feels like Jackson Dart's one, right? He draws people to him. Fernando Mendoza's got that. And I don't know enough about Ty Simpson to know if he's actually got that it factor. So that checks the box. All right. What about the size to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League? Fernando Mendoza's 6'5", 225. All right. Ty Simpson, 6'2", 208. Still decent size there, 6'2". It's not like you're 6 foot saying he's undersized, right? 6'5", 225. Fernando Mendoza checks the attitude box. He checks the size box. And then is he a ascending player? 67, 77, 88. checks that box. If he goes out here on the grand stage and lights it up today in the SEC championship and throughout the playoffs, there's your top quarterback in the draft, right? So someone else to think about here, if I were to look back real quick, I was trying to see, give me just a second. Let's see there. Coach's post. All right, here we go. I want to just make sure. Yeah, so Oregon's going to be in. Obviously, they're the number 5 team. So you've got Dante Moore, right? Dante Moore's not playing in the conference championship, but we will be seeing him in the playoffs. Obviously, they are ranked currently. Where are they at? Yeah, they're currently number 5, slated to play the number 12 seed most likely. So Dante Moore is the guy you want to watch in the playoffs. Now, not been that consistent. 2023, he played 432 snaps, but a 57, right? Last year, only 29 snaps. I don't know if he just didn't play or if he got hurt, but this year, boy, 91.2 PFF grade. What's the size look like? 6'3", 206. That checks the box, not as much as Fernando Mendoza, but it checks the box, right? Caleb Banks is not in the playoffs, all right? Defensive tackle, here you go, Caden McDonald. Look for him in the Big Ten Championship. This is going to be great. As you guys are watching the Big Ten Championship today, look for defensive tackle Caden McDonald for Ohio State, 6'3", 326, ascending player, 63, 68, 88 this year, all right? So he's gotten better every year, trying to get after Fernando Mendoza of Indiana. So you're seeing 2 players that are going to be first-round picks that are going to be playing for the Big Ten Championship today. We're 46 minutes into this video, and this is what I wanted to get to today. This wasn't just, let me get in here and talk to you guys and tell you what you need to watch for. It was me to uncover in real time, live on the show, what are the matchups we're looking for today. Fernando Mendoza playing quarterback for Indiana, and can Caden McDonald get pressure on him? Assuming that Caden McDonald is playing, there may be an injury there too. If you guys know that, let me know. I'm assuming all these players are healthy. When you're talking about thousands of players across college football, it's hard to keep up with who's healthy and who isn't. Georgia, they're going to be playing in the SEC championship, right? Kristen Miller, defensive tackle for Georgia. Look for him. 6'4", 310, PFF grade 69, 82, 81. He will be going up against Alabama Crimson Tide. So you've got Kristen Miller, defensive tackle for Georgia, trying to sack Ty Simpson, quarterback for Alabama. There's your 2 matchups. There they are. So you got Fernando Mendoza going up against Caden McDonald, and then you've got Kristen Miller trying to get after Ty Simpson in the SEC championship. This is going to be an absolute blast today watching these football games, man. I cannot wait for everything to kick off. Another playoff team to watch for with a player at defensive tackle, Amari Washington, 6'3", 330 out of Oregon. All right. Ascending player, 57, 65, 77. He's gotten better every year. Look for him out of Oregon performing in the playoffs, so we get a little bit deeper in the playoffs. Garrett Nussmeier, they were cheeks this year. They're not in the playoffs. Lenore Sellers, same thing. Dante Corleone out of Cincy, no. Auburn, Connor Lew, no. Jake Slaughter, no. See if there's anybody else in here that's going to be in the playoffs. Or is Oklahoma? Oklahoma's in the playoffs. So another quarterback to watch for here is John Mateer. He's a junior, so he could apply for the draft if he wanted to. 75, 83, 63 dropped this year. Had a bad year. He's only 6'1", 224, but again, watch for him in the playoffs. He got a chance to improve his stock. I don't think Arizona State's nowhere near. Yeah, they're nowhere near the playoffs, so we're good there. Anybody else? Texas Tech. We got our first Texas Tech player here. The number 4 Texas Tech Red Raiders. We've got a defensive tackle. He's the 124th ranked prospect, 6'1", 290 pounds. Another ascending player, 73, 83, 88, only 165 snaps. So maybe he is not healthy. You guys do your own research there. That's Skylar Gill Howard out of Texas Tech. He may not be playing he may be out for the year, right? With those minimal snaps. And again, we may lose our place, but let's see what happens when I click on this. Recent snaps. So yeah, he hasn't played since week 8. So he's obviously out. So scratch that one off the list. Nothing to watch there. Here's Bear Alexander. How do you not draft a defensive tackle named Bear, right? He's out of Oregon. Bear Alexander, 6'3", 302. He's a player that's 64 and then got hurt in 2024, it looks like. And then this year, he's up to a 72.3. And is he healthy right now? He seems to be healthy right now. So he missed some time or no. He's played every week. It just looks like maybe they've limited his snaps. He's more of a B gap guy, so that would be your traditional 3-tech that you're looking for, right? So just keep an eye on him as well. So if we hop back up, there's a Texas A&M guy too. I'm sorry, Albert Regas out of Texas A&M. He is the 134th ranked prospect, 6'1", 317. His PFF grade 64, 74, 73. So that's another player to look for. Where did he line up at predominantly? B gap. So there's another 3-tech guy. Good deal. So it's important to kind of understand where they align. If we go back up and look at the top defensive tackle that we were talking about out of Ohio State here, I believe was the top one, Caden McDonald. Caden McDonald, however, has played 198 B gap, but 128 A gap. So he's probably more of a nose tackle than he is a 3-tech, because typically they'll just kick those guys to 3-tech the large majority of the time. So that's how that lays out there. One last question before we wrap this thing up. Not So Cool says, we don't have a first round though. You might go at center at the second round. That's what it kind of lines up at, right? Cool. It's that's kind of what it looks like when we were laying out the centers. Your top center in this draft, we still got it checked. We noticed was Connor Lew out of Auburn. He's ranked 65th. That might be it might make sense to go center in the second round, right? Which is typically what the Packers have done, if I remember correctly. So yeah, when you kind of look at that, he's played center his entire career. It's not been great this year, 66.1. It's not like you going, wow, this guy's elite. He hasn't played since week 8 either. So there's obviously an injury there. That might be why he is so low on that list. So something else to do some more research there with. All right. So there you go, guys. There's a quick look at the playoffs and obviously the playoff bracket and kind of how that lays out. Again, as it sits right now, the rankings before conference championship week here, number 1, Ohio State, number 2, Indiana, number 3, Georgia, number 4, Texas Tech. They should all get a first round bye. And then in the 5 spot is Oregon. They'll host a playoff game. The 6 spot is Ole Miss. They'll host a playoff game. Number 7 currently is Texas A&M, and the projections showing they're going to host Notre Dame. And it looks like number 8 is Oklahoma hosting Alabama as it sits right now. And yeah, that's kind of how the playoffs lay out at the moment. So we'll get you guys all the updates as we move forward. We're about to step into a whole different part of the season. Again, we've been talking Packers Bears all week. I want to change things up. I know there's a lot of college football on slate today. So I want to give you guys an idea of what to look for. Again, the big thing that sticks out to me, guys, today is Ty Simpson, quarterback for Alabama, is going to be going up against Kristen Miller, defensive tackle for Georgia. They both seem to be healthy, so they will be playing in that game, obviously. And then in the Big Ten championship tonight, look for Fernando Mendoza, your top quarterback prospect, according to the consensus big board right now, going up against Caden McDonald, big defensive tackle for Ohio State. And he's showing he is healthy now too. Boy, his grades look great. Holy cow. Run stop rate, 13%. It's pegged out. His run defense grade is a 92.2. He's probably more of an A gap than a B gap guy. But again, he does have the versatility to kick around. His pass rush grade, he's definitely a run stop defender first, is how that looks. So that might not even be like not that he would be available for the Packers in the second round, but that doesn't even look like what we're looking for in a 3-tech, to be honest with you. So that's it, guys. We're out of here. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We may do another show later. I got a bunch of plans today. We're going to watch some football, some college football as well, but you may get a random stream if any kind of news breaks. So make sure you guys hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we do go live at those random times. Greatly appreciate everybody jumping in here on short notice. It's fun talking a little college ball with y'all and talking a little NFL draft. I know it's going to piss some people off. They're going to say, Clayton, it's way too early to be talking about this. I got you. This is more of a primer for the college football that's on tap today. I don't like to just look at spreadsheets. I don't like to just look at grades. I don't like to just look at numbers. I like to get an idea of who are the top prospects. I want to see them on the biggest stage, and we're stepping into that season. Conference championships today, playoffs for the next few weeks. That's where you're going to really see those guys improve their draft stock. I just want to be able to know I'm looking for number 93 today. I'm looking for number 7 today as we're watching football. So you guys hit that like button for me. Appreciate you. We'll see you guys later on tonight or tomorrow. Definitely doing the PTA pregame show tomorrow. So make sure you guys are ready for that. And, of course, the postgame show as well. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go, Pack, go.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.